Welcome to the Powered by Age, Age-Friendly City Zoomcast reality-style podcast.
We are movers and shakers, shaking up the old notion of silent, helpless, invisible seniors.
This is a new series of podcasts funded by the City of Vancouver and the 411 Senior Center Society.
As PBA AFC ambassadors, we
raise awareness,
share our original stories and poems,
inform, advocate, and involve seniors in discussing important social issues.
In short, these podcasts will help us,
you, in creating an age-friendly city for Vancouver today,
tomorrow the world.
You can hear us everywhere podcasts are heard. Hello. Welcome to Powered by Age. This is Powered by Age, the Age-Friendly City podcast, sponsored by the 411 Center. And today, our topic is Money Talks. And we're going to ask you some of your thoughts about money. We have a special guest who is an awesome accountant, Maggie Taylor, who is the accountant at the 411 Center. She's a volunteer for over 5 years, has worked with the team of people who do the income tax. And we will just be starting the way we usually do, is introducing ourselves. I'll start. I'm Charlotte Ferrell. I'm the coordinator and I'm a poet and I know it. And each person will briefly introduce themselves. And one thing I want you to say when you introduce yourself, how does one thing that's different in your attitude about money when you were a teen and your attitude about money now? So we'll start with Neill.
That's my book on Amazon and Barnes & Noble, and it's beautiful. And my name is Neill Ryon, and I wrote every word that's in this book, including the short stories.
And people on the podcast hearing it can't see it, so it's called From the Other Side.
Oh, you can't see?
Well,
I can see. There.
No, we on the Zoom can see, but people hear us by podcast. They hear us on the where they can't see us.
The book is called From the Other Side, and that's what I consider is where the poetry came from, because I used to pretend I was a businessman and did so for 50 years. But when I quit doing that, when I quit pretending I was a businessman, I wrote short stories and poetry. And I understand that I'm going to be invited to share one of them today. And I'm ever so grateful. And what else? Next Tuesday, I have a birthday. Another one? They just keep coming around, you know?
Thank goodness for that.
Thank goodness for that. You're right.
They were asking, what's one difference in the attitude that you had about money when you were a teen and your attitude about money now?
Oh, golly. My attitude about money is that they're like, money's like buses. They come and go. And sometimes you share the ride.
Well, that's great. That's classic. Leslie?
Yes, I'm Leslie Hebert. I live in New Westminster, and I am a teacher of English as a second language via Zoom and Skype. And I'm also a writer, and I just had a piece published in Canadian Stories about some family history that I put together. And my thoughts about money. When I was a teen in the UK, we had pennies that were like 1.5 inches across. And every penny was precious because I had very little money. Now, as a retired person in Canada, we don't even have pennies anymore. We don't even consider them. And now I have enough. I'm blessed that I have enough money that I don't have to worry anymore. So, yeah.
Very well. Chris?
When I was a teenager, I didn't have any money either. I wanted money, but didn't have any because we were just talking about that earlier, but because we were an immigrant family, the money was all decided on, and there was no such thing in those days as allowances or anything. Now I'm retired. I have enough, but I don't have so much that I need to not. I am a bit concerned sometimes to make sure that ends meet, that I can pay the bills and all that kind of stuff. But I'm not overly worried. Because I feel like, compared to many people, I have enough money. I don't really need to grab a whole lot more.
Oh, and Chris, tell us your last name and your big event that you have coming up tomorrow.
So, I'm with East. I live in East Van, and I'm part of Quirky, the queer imaging and writing collective for elders. And tomorrow, the gender and women's studies at SFU are celebrating 50 years. And Quirky has done a partnership with them for various things, including having published a book with them. And so they're having a celebration of their 50 years, and Quirky is going to be a part of it. And so some of us it's also serving as a launch for our last anthology because of COVID, we had no launch. So this is going to be a launch of our latest anthology, which is called Together We Stand, Queer Elders Speak Out. I don't have a copy here with me, so I can't show you a copy, even if you could see it. So that's what we're doing tomorrow afternoon.
And how would people find it?
Well, there's an Eventbrite address for people to register. I don't have that off the top of my head either, but I can perhaps find it and put it in the chat.
Okay, that'll be great. Nancy, you were having the intro, and the question was, what's an attitude you had about money when you were a teen that's different from your attitude about money now?
Oh, well, I'm Nancy Sinclair. I live on Vancouver Island, beautiful British Columbia. I recall when I was a teenager working for my dad, the first T4 slip I received, my income tax, and he made the comment, have a look at how much money you've earned. And then he said, what have you done with it? And he said, look in your closet. I was like, oh, okay. It all went to clothing. And so I always thought that was it stuck out in my mind. And my attitude now, I wasn't aware at the time that money is connected to spiritual practice and spiritual beliefs. And money is ever abundant and all needs are met, whether it comes in the form of dollar signs or not. So it's vastly different. And I have less clothes in my closet now.
My teen years, I was an oldest child, and I had an aunt. Well, yeah, both my aunt and my mother, they worked in the Treasury Department for the government. And we were very oriented around budgeting and saving. And so by the time I went to college, I could budget anything. So my mindset, talking about that shift from frugality, and being practical. And this year I decided this is going to be my year of impractical. I'm not going to worry about if I have some shoes that are print that they don't match everything and other impractical things, because I've been 7 decades and I've always been practical. And so, and then also on that, Nancy and I belong to a similar senior spiritual group. The abundance of the universe is my reflection now. So With that, I'm going to introduce Maggie Taylor. Maggie, as I said, is an accountant. She has 30 years in accounting. She says she's retired, but she is faithfully serving as the accountant for the 411 Center, and she is part of the team of people that are doing the income tax. So she's going to tell us about what you need to have on hand for your taxes, but also tips and questions that you might have, because some of you work and some have got other questions about money. So without further ado, I will turn you over to Maggie Taylor.
Hi, I'm Maggie Taylor, and delightful to hear everybody's stories about how they were when they were teenagers regarding money. I think myself, I do understand the clothing thing, because I worked part-time since I was 14 at different jobs, which gave me a wide scope of working experience over the years, and exciting too, because I got to do a lot of different things. And with that, whatever I earned, I spent money, because we didn't have anything extra in our family. And it was for clothing. And I remember buying my first beautiful mohair sweater, which was the color of apricot, and it was just gorgeous, and I loved it because they were very much in vogue. And to me, I wore that thing day and night because I earned it and I loved it. And so money to me has been over the years. I've always had to be on a budget when I was younger. And when I got older and had more money, I could spend it more freely on things like travel and more expensive clothes and spas and all sorts of things. And now that I'm older, I'm back to being a teenager. When I buy something, it's something I really want, and I treasure it and I hold on to it because I don't have the kind of funds that I did when I was working full time. So, and that's okay. As a matter of fact, I think that experience as a teenager really helped me on how to handle money when you have limited funds. So, as far as the tax clinic goes, I don't know how you want me to start this. You just want me to tell you a bit about the tax clinic? Can't hear you, Charlotte.
I muted myself. Yeah, about the tax clinic, but also in the blurb, we have it on our webpage. Bring the papers that you're going to drop off. So a little bit different. What are these kinds of papers that people need to bring? And
okay, really important because if it when in doubt, to bring it all. Keep it in an envelope throughout the year. Best thing to do is anything that you think is involved in your taxes, you should keep together and say an envelope, a big envelope, and then at the end of the year, it's all there. You don't have to run around trying to gather it, because I know that can be a problem in the past. What will happen is the government will be mailing, still mails to everybody, their OAS, their slip, their T4A slip, and also the CPP T4A slip. They come separately. But actually they don't, sorry, they come together in the same envelope. If you're getting both, you have to be careful you don't think you've only got one. They're both in the same envelope. And those are two of the most important parts for most seniors, because that's a major source of income for most seniors that are low income. And also any pension plans you get from your work, any interest receipt you get, anything you get on a regular basis income. If you've got a foreign pension, you may not get something from the country, but it will, if it automatically shows up in your bank account, then you should bring your bank account statements so we can figure out how much it is, because that has to be reported. So anything that, any money you get, basically, just bring it in the envelope, and that can be sorted. You also need to bring any expenses like medical. If you have a lot of medical expenses, anything that you that you have, if donation receipts, if you've got done any donations, you've taken any courses, anything of that nature. So basically, anything that you've spent money on large or received, money received or money you spent large sums on, not your grocery list, mind you, just the bigger items. Can't hear you.
What about expenses? Some people within our group do work and have money. Can you how do people deal with different types of self-employment?
Well, we at 411 do not handle self-employment because we're not set up our program to email those type of, e-file those type of returns. However, depending on the person, you can set up an appointment with an INR person and they can refer you on how to do it. And basically, there is a special form you can bring it down from the computer. You can print it and you can fill it in. And basically, it's a list of all the things you can actually expense against your business. For instance, paper, if you're using a lot of paper for your business, printing stuff. If you're using something to do with the computer, extra computer time or a program and so on. Those are things you can write off against the income that you directly got from it. But you have to get that, you have to fill that form out and then you have to file it. There is programs that you can file online that we can sort of walk you through or whatever that are quite simple. Or you can, again, paper file it if you're self-employed. Or you can go to H&R Block. That will cost you some money, but you can go to H&R Block or one of the ones that charge. Accounting firms charge as well. Of course, they charge more. So you're looking probably maybe at $100 or more to file a personal self-employment income tax.
Well, I wanted to go back to what you said about reporting foreign pension income. If you file income tax in two countries, do you get charged on your Social Security from both of them?
What do you mean charged?
Well, when we report our CPP and the T4A, there's a tax that you get charged for what you make. So if you have another pension, do they charge you tax on that pension as well?
Yeah, there's a formula on that. And most of the time what happens is because the OAS is united with other countries, they will assess it so that normally you wouldn't end up paying extra, but you won't end up getting extra either. There's a sort of an amount that's set universally. Not everybody, not every country has that, mind you, but that's usually how it works.
Maggie, you mentioned H&R Block. I go to a company in Vancouver, Simple Tax, and you pay whatever you want to pay. You can pay zero, or I give them $10 a year to look after. In fact, mine was more complicated last year, so I gave them $20. I felt more generous, but normally I give them $10 and they look after it for me.
Well, that's great.
Totally.
That's great. Maybe you want to share that name with everybody, Neill?
They just changed name to Simple Wealth Tax, but I'm sure you could just find them under Simple Tax. And they're a group of accountants that started up in downtown Vancouver, and they're beautiful people to work with. They really are. I had a problem 2 or 3 years ago, and that's they looked after it for me. They got it all corrected. So anyway, it's just called Simple Tax, and as I said, they changed their name very recently to Simple Wealth Tax.
Well, that's great knowledge, actually. That's something we can share with people who call 411 to get their taxes done. Because as I say, the thing is, too, we have all our preparers of their tax returns, they're volunteers. And we have everybody from students that are taking finance or whatever at college. We have bankers that donate their time. We have accountants. We have all sorts of people that donate their time to do the tax preparations. The thing is, they're not all, one of the other reasons why we don't do complicated ones like death, if it was someone who died, a tax return, or self-employed or so on, is because they're more complicated, or can be, and we don't, the volunteers are not trained on that, and nor is a program that we're provided with from the government to file.
Maggie, you mentioned having envelopes for receipts. If people are there, before when you were saying that there's some things people might know if a spouse passed during the course of a year, what difference does that make in the way they file their taxes?
Because if for instance, you're filing your 2020 taxes and your spouse died in 2020, you were still considered joint taxes. So you have to file as joint, even like if you're married. So for instance, if your husband died in November of 2020 and you come to the center to have your taxes filed for yourself in March, the beginning of March this year, you would have to bring your husband's paperwork too, and you'd have to be able to sign on his behalf because you have to file as joint people. So one of the important things I think to keep in mind always is you should always have your paperwork for both of you all the time at the same place, or in two separate envelopes, but in the same location, so that the other person can find it if you're a partner. And also, you should make sure you file regularly, because if you don't, even if you're low income and you think, oh, well, I don't really have to file, I don't pay taxes. The reason why the government really wants you to file, no matter what your income is so they can keep track of you, that they know that you're still alive, for one thing. So your pensions are going to the right person. They're not, being stolen or whatever, and that's the way they can keep track of it. The thing is, if you don't file for a number of years, what'll happen is, and then your spouse, and you die, then your spouse is in a real mess because it affects them getting benefits as well. All of a sudden, there's the other side and they don't have any information on it. So that can cause a real problem. So it's best to keep both of you up to date constantly, even if it's very low or no income. If you keep up your filing, then you don't have to worry. You're taken care of. And that's important. The other thing is now, too, the government's really stopped down on if you don't file your taxes on time or within a few months after July of say 20, if you haven't filed your 2020 taxes by say July of 2021, you will stop getting your benefits. They'll stop being mailed to you. They'll stop being put into your bank account. Which can be very scary because to get them started up again, you have to file your taxes, and that can take a bit, filing your taxes and then waiting for them to get you back on the program. So you can really, it's not a good thing. You need to file on time.
Maggie, that address is reply, R-E-P-L-Y, reply at simpletax.ca. And I deal with a guy named Clint there. And as I say, I recommend them highly. And you pay whatever you feel is. And as I said, they said you can file for $0. They'll look after it for you if it's a really, really simple. But I like to give them something.
Well, that's great. Thank you.
Yeah, at the 411 center, they have a donation. Well, when you saw the person directly, they had a little donations box. When people drop off their taxes, are they able to make a donation to the 411 center?
Yes, there will be a donation box there that you can. Also this year, because of COVID and because of the way it's being handled, they're really stressing that people, if you're not sure on things, the best thing is to phone and make an appointment. And there will be people there, i.e. myself for one, starting on Monday, March 1st, and they will be able to answer some questions and check stuff up if you need to talk to someone in person. Otherwise, the tax returns are just all the paperwork taken in and then assigned to someone to do it, and then they're done, and then they'll call you for pickup. So basically, you really, if you've got some concerns, the best thing to do is to phone and make an appointment.
For people who are listening and may not know where the 411 center is, can you give the address that they would be bringing their papers to?
Yes, it's 333 Terminal Avenue, and that's just east of Main Street on Terminal. 1 block, actually. 2 blocks, rather. Well, 1.5 blocks east of Main Street, and we're on the 7th floor.
And do you have that phone number that they would call to make an appointment?
Yes, it's 604-684-8171.
Okay, say it once more. Mary just went for her pen.
Okay, 604-684-8171.
Now, I notice on one of the tax papers, it has something, are there tax credits if you have more than a usual amount of medical expense? Like
Yes.
If someone had to buy a walker, I bought a walker, if somebody had to buy different things, how is that accounted for?
Well, no, what the thing is about a tax credit. A tax credit is not that you get extra money or what it means is it reduces the taxes that are owed. So this is a key thing. So if you're living on pensions and you don't really have any taxes owing, it may not have any impact. However, if you've got some self-employed income or you've got something from a pension or whatever that may put you into a bracket that you have to pay taxes, then it will be it affects that. So it lowers what you have to pay in taxes. That's what a tax credit is. It's just low. It's why it says tax credit is it's lowering it's giving credit to your tax. So it's lowering your taxes owed.
And then some of our people, including me, use the Handy Dart to go, and Handy Dart charges a fee. Is that an area, a category of expense?
No. Do you have the public pass that you can get through the transportation in Vancouver?
Well, actually, you still have to pay, because I thought that if you had the orange card, you still have to pay for, you have to buy a book of tickets from the Handy Dart people. And it comes out to be $3 each way. And then if you want the taxi, you buy a book. You could buy $50 worth of taxi coupons for $25, but you still have to pay. You don't just get it free. You have to be approved, but you don't get it free.
Yeah, no. As far as I know, that's not a tax deduction or credit at all that you can take.
You mentioned INRs, that people could get help with INR with understanding papers. Could you explain what that is?
Oh yes, through it's 411. We have a service called INR, information and referral. So if you've got any concerns on pretty well almost anything, you can phone and make an appointment, and you meet with someone, and you can talk through what the issue is. So it's things like what Neill was talking about. Some people phone about dental, where they can get low income. They don't have to pay a large sum for their dental needs, or it could be something to do with housing. It could be do something with, having problems not getting their benefits, and let's how to figure it out, how to fill out some of the forms to get stuff, get their guaranteed income supplement or whatever, and so forth. So there's a number of things that INR can help with and steer people in the right direction. If we don't know, if information and referral doesn't have the information, we can refer you to someone where they can help or provide you with the information.
How does one go about applying for the disability tax credit?
Okay, so again, the disability tax credit starts with you get it from there's a form. Again, you can download it, or you can, your doctor might, if you don't have a computer, your doctor might actually be able to download it for you. But it has to be filled out by your doctor. And basically, it's about a 4 or 5 page form. And it asks all sorts of questions, and whether the disability is permanent, whether it's expected to be a year long or 5 years or whatever. Once that paperwork is filled out, it's then filed with CRA, and CRA does an assessment, and they'll go through it, and they'll assess. They'll send you a letter then confirming that you got disability for how many years or whatever. Sometimes they'll establish CRA that it's permanent or not. And so they'll send you a letter. It usually the process could take about 6 months. So you don't really, at least prior to COVID, so I don't know. I would think with COVID, it might be a little longer. So if you think it's a necessity, it's important to get it in right away. Again, it's a tax credit, which again is if you owe taxes, it'll reduce what you owe, but it doesn't necessarily mean it gives you extra money. Now, if you have a partner, you can switch with the partner. So, if one partner's got the income that's taxable, they can take on that disability part.
So I should apply for the disability tax credit now for next year. Was that takes that long?
Yeah. And if you got it, say in 6 months' time, you got it, and the CRA backdated it to 2020, you could ask for file an adjustment to your taxes from 2020.
Okay.
It's called a T4 adjustment, but that's also something that 411 information referral can help you with.
Okay, thank you. And Nancy has a question in the chat. Do donations made for places outside of country qualify for income tax in Canada? Is her question.
If they're a registered number, I believe they do. I'm not 100% sure on that. I'd have to check, Nancy, and I can certainly verify that for you. But I think they do, but I'd have to double check.
I suspect it will probably depend on the organization. I know Doctors Without Borders works outside of Canada, but they're actually registered as a Canadian charity, so they will qualify.
Yeah. Are you referring to something like that, Nancy? Or are you referring more to a U.S. charity?
I donate to a couple of different places, but so one is it's a U.S. company, and they accept donations from all over the world. And then the other is in Mexico. So the one in the U.S., I pay in Canadian. I pay the equivalent of U.S. funds, for whatever the donation is, and then I contribute to a food thing in Mexico that's paid here in Canada. It's in Canadian funds, but it supports people in Mexico.
You get receipts from them or donation receipts?
From both places, yeah.
Okay. Does it not mention that on the donation receipt? Because I would think it would say that it's you're able to file it.
Yeah, no, not that I know. It occurred to me this year that
okay, because the other thing is too, as Leslie was saying, if a donation receipt in Canada will have a number on it, a Canadian number that indicates that it's that you can that it's a Canadian charity or
Right.
Like as Leslie was mentioning, Doctors Beyond Borders and stuff. And there's other ones that are kind of universal. That yes, for sure, but you'd have to have that on. You'd have to have that on the receipt. That
Right.
number. It's a registered charity number.
Yeah, I'll check it. I don't know if it was just that it was an American registered number or Canadian. But anyways, it's a legitimate company, but I understand what you're saying. So I'll have a look at it and see what it says.
Yeah.
Yeah, churches and charitable organizations in the States, the IRS gives them a number that's a charitable donation number. And if they send you a letter, many charitable organizations send you a letter or receipt, and it puts that number there so that you can claim it.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
if it's an IRS number, it wouldn't be valid in Canada. It would have to be a Canadian registered number,
Oh,
right?
no, those numbers are definitely IRS numbers from most of the U.S. charities
Just
or
a second,
churches.
somebody at the door.
I don't know for sure, but I thought that only organizations that are registered in Canada as charitable organizations can you use the tax receipts. That unless the organization is registered in Canada, like Doctors Without Borders, for example, or Amnesty International, organizations that are international, but they also have a registered charitable number in Canada, then those you can use. But I'm not sure. I'm not sure that donations, the only reason I say this is because I've had people in the opposite asking if they've made donations to our organization and can they use those for tax receipts in the US, which they can't. So I'm not sure that there's a mutual, I think it's mutual, that unless the organization is registered with CRA and has a charitable tax number from Canada, I don't think you can claim it. But I'm not an expert.
Could you explain a bit about the GSA? Periodically, there checks people get from the GSA taxes that I guess you get charged, the goods and services tax.
DST.
You mean the refund that we get periodically?
Yes.
When you're low income, every 3 or 4 times a year, we get a tax that's giving us money back for having paid the GST.
Maggie, you're unmuted.
GST rebate or whatever is not taxable. But the thing is, you get the rebate, as Chris said, 4 times a year, every quarter, you get so much. But it's only for people at a certain income or lower. It's not for everybody. Higher income do not get a GST refund.
So I got it. And I wonder, are they keeping tabs of every time you buy something, you get those taxes? It's just based on a formula.
It's just universal. Sort of for people with lower income who basically are paying it out every time you buy something, they just are giving you back some of that. And as I say, it's for higher income people, you don't get that refund. So it's only under a certain level of income.
Could you explain, when people get paid an honoraria, do they have to report it? Do they also get a T4, or what happens with the accounting for people that were paid by honoraria?
A T4 is issued for work only, paid work, where they take deductions off, like CPP and EI and taxes. T4A is for other things like pensions, so on. An honorarium, usually an honorarium, if it's under $500, wouldn't necessarily have you wouldn't be getting any paperwork, and therefore you wouldn't necessarily have to claim it. However, if they do send you a paper, a T4A or whatever, then you would have to claim it.
Okay, does anyone else have any questions? Leslie.
Yeah, so we do have self-employed income through it's a business holder before when my husband was working. And we actually claim a percentage of our living space expenses, so a percentage of our utilities as a business expense, computers, that kind of thing, post office expenses. But I guess that really wouldn't apply to the 411 service because you don't do self-employed, do you?
No, we don't. But just so that you know, this year too, you have to check it because there's a different way they're going to be handling it because of COVID for 2020. I mean, income in 2020, because a lot of people basically were working from home and stuff. So they've made some different kind of flat figures and so on. So you'd have to look at it. This year, it'll be different than previous years. Now, if you take it to your taxes are done by an accounting firm or H&R Block or simply Tax Wealth, they would know what the ruling is and be able to help you with that. But definitely, or you can go online and look for it.
Yeah, we just use the TurboTax online.
Yeah.
So, so does that mean that more people will be getting that, will be allowed to take that deduction because more people working at home?
Let's put it this way. I think people would be, more people would be allowed to take it, I believe, but it would be a limited amount. So for instance, there's someone who's always taken it, you might be taking less than you normally, or you have to claim maybe less than normal. But it depends.
Yeah, it's something, it works out about 10% of the total because they figure that the square footage that you use for actually an office is a percentage of your total residence. And then for things like Cablevision, not cable, or sort of internet, right? I claim 50% of that for the business.
Yeah.
As well.
Yeah. Yeah, and then they've also really clamped down in the past, anyways, on space because space is basically, it should be a separate room that is called your office, and so it can't be part of a room that's used for something else, i.e., your living room or your bedroom or whatever. And
this is where I am right now. This is my office.
Yes. And so there's that. There's a lot of different rules for if you're self-employed and for if you're doing that or you're doing contract work, whatever. It's always good to sort of talk to someone in advance before really getting into it, because that person can tell you what you need to collect or say paperwork wise, and then you have an idea. Because if after the fact you say, oh, I wish I had have known that, and I would have kept my receipts from my office supplies, and I didn't. So that's why it's good to, when in doubt, keep it. And then you've got it, and you can always ask someone after, and they can tell you, no, that's not going to work, or that will. The thing is, if you use gas too, basically on whatever kind of part-time work you're doing or work, and you're paying, that can be an expense, but you have to do a mileage chart, which means you have to keep it at all times in your car. And when you're working on that business thing, for instance, say you're delivering pizza or whatever, you have to clock it. So they have a mileage, because they may ask for it, and they only allow you to charge so much per mile.
Yeah, and another thing I've started doing, I teach ESL online, and generally I teach students overseas, but this year I've picked up some local clients. So how do I handle that with the GST?
Well, okay. So what are you doing? You're coaching them online, or how does that work?
Yeah.
So you charge them for a service, for your service.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. The thing is, if you're charging for a service through GST, if you earning more than 30,000, that's gross income from that service, you have to start charging GST.
Oh, okay.
If you earn under 30,000, you don't have to charge GST. Now, the thing is, if you're going to get close to 30,000, then you need to apply for a GST number through the government. But just so you know, once you've applied for it and they've given you the number, no matter what your income is from that point on, so say it drops to 25,000, you still have to claim, you still have to pay GST.
Yeah, we do have a GST number for the other business, which is actually not one that we charge GST for. It's basically, it's a hotel business that we have a share in. So we already have the number. So I guess I should be charging GST to my Canadian clients, right?
Well, is this a self-employed, the hotel, it's an incorporated company or a limited company or?
Oh, well, it's a bit complicated, but what happens is the expenses that we have in connection with the hotel, we claim the GST back. The hotel themselves actually charges GST to the clients, so we don't have anything to do with the charging GST part of it.
Oh, I see. Okay. All right. Okay. So they're filed, it's the same thing. When you file your expenses for the hotel at the same time as you're filing your income from.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, then if it's under the same umbrella, yes, you do have to charge GST.
Okay. Okay. Good. Thank you.
Can you recommend a simple way for people to keep up with their expenses monthly?
Well, one of the ways I do it, actually, to be honest with you, is the simplest way, is if you have an Excel program on your computer, to do an Excel spreadsheet. That's the simplest way because you can set it up in columns per month if you want, and again by expenses, and then you can it's like keeping track of your budget, right? You know exactly how much money you're spending each month or how much money you need each month. So an Excel spreadsheet's great. If you don't have a computer or you don't have Excel, what you can do is get a column or pad book, which is the old-fashioned way of doing it, but it's a book with columns in it, lines and columns. You can get any place they sell school supplies. And again, you can set it up the same way as you would a spreadsheet on Excel with your expenses listed month by month, and you can track it that way. That's the best way to do it. If you're not somebody who wants to do it on a monthly basis, although I highly recommend it because it gives you a better idea where you're at, the same with a budget, maybe put it, again, set up an envelope for each month and have a series of envelopes and shove all your receipts in that envelope dated January. And so you have one for each month. Now, by the end of the year, you're going to have them all together. So if you have them on a spreadsheet, it's a lot easier than going through the envelopes. Something my mother used to do, these duotang folders, she had a folder for every month. And on the left pocket, she put bills, and in the right pocket, she put expenses and receipts. And I've used it. I hate Excel. I know how to do Excel, but I hate looking at squares and boxes on a screen. Plus I forget, but I found, because I used to make my children add my receipts up, and they gave me even more and more efficient ways to keep the receipts. Mom, why don't you just put can't you add them in advance or put them in categories? But this is fairly simple because a lot of people were used to having those, double pocket folders from school, and it's not electric. If the electricity is off or the computer's not working, you still have them. So I found that was a good way. It's helping me now to reestablish it because I was trying to use some of the computer-based systems, and I'm so, like a lot of people, I'm so sick of having to use my computer, I want to throw it out one of the windows. So this, you can carry them, and periodically you can add the stuff up. I totally agree with you, Charlotte. And you know what? If you get colorful ones like you've got there, that blue one or whatever, then you've got them, and you can see that they're there. They're not going to blend in beige folders or whatever. So whatever it does to make you sort of spark. Obviously, your mom was onto this. She knew how to organize it, and that's the best way, actually, to if you come up with a system for yourself. And I know the computer one, Excel's not everybody's idea, especially now because we're on computers all the time. But if you get yourself a series of folders, you can go to Dollarama or whatever, they're next to nothing to buy them, and you can get it any color you want or many colors. So you have a different color for each month if you want it.
And it helps if you ever are audited. I got audited once and I had all my folders and the guy said, having those folders, it does document to a person. Sometimes they question, but seeing those folders, I'm not going to challenge you on most of the things that you have because you have a system. If they can see you have a system and you have a lot of, things that you are claiming or documenting, these folders can save you time and money.
Oh, yeah. I think and the other thing is if you keep them in file folders like that too, if you have to, if something happened with your glasses, for instance, or whatever, and you paid for them in January, and so you go back to your January file and pull out your receipt, and there's your receipt for your glasses. So at least you've kept them in some kind of order that you can find something, your receipt afterwards. So that helps.
Yeah, and it helps at some point, one of our family members or somebody will be handling our affairs. And it definitely, if you have a system and you have stuff people can find, it really, helps.
One of the things I can say too on that, Charlotte, and I think that was key. One of the things I realized from doing volunteering at the INR is that people really didn't have a clue when someone died, sometimes even their spouse, on where the paperwork was or where something important was. And that's a real problem. Because if the spouse doesn't know where you bank, that causes a problem for everybody, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's a really good idea to keep your partner alert of whatever. Make sure that each of you, where the money is, where everything is, and whatever. Be fully aware and informed on each other. And also the same with drafting a will. A will can be a simple draft and handwritten and have someone sign it that witnesses it. It's a friend or whatever. But at least you have something in writing that you can produce if you your spouse dies, and that says, yes, I was the spouse of such and such. And it's really important. Even if you have no money, it's very important. Because again, you don't want your benefits to stop because your spouse has died, because you need them even more than ever then.
Yeah, good thing that the 411 Center invited people from the Memorial Center. I don't know whether you all know about it's the Canadian Memorial Center, and for $10 you can have a membership in this society, and they send you a package called Ready to Go, and it's like, when you're ready to go away from here. It's got folders for different things, like letting your life insurance policy, and a place to remind you to make people your beneficiary. Because with your Canada pension plan, if you don't note who the beneficiaries are, then people go through a real hardship trying to document. Just trying to get this pot of money that they have, that they're entitled to give to a child or whoever might have been listed as their power of attorney. So it's really good from the Canadian Memorial Society to get their Ready to Go kit. It's just their membership kit, but when you pay $10 for their membership kit, they send you that little folder. I thought it was going to be a package. It's almost like a duotang folder, but it's got pockets for these different things that are really important to have.
Well, that's good information. That's great.
Yeah, when maybe we'll invite them to do a Zoom, because the 411 Center, one of the things they had in the course of the year, the people came and they did a workshop, and then they let people ask questions. So we'll be a virtual workshop.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea.
Yeah, that would be good, I think. Yeah.
Neill is three of us do poetry here, but Neill has got a poem about money that he is going to share with us.
Oh, okay. This is about money, but it's also about our humanity. It's called It's Only $1. He tossed the words out as he passed me by. It took a millisecond to cross the space between us, as if he had thrown them at me. He tossed the words out draped in disdain, as if he was throwing something away along with the words, "It's only $1." The meta message and the body language conveyed his scorn for such lowly money. He had a job, he was young and healthy, and contempt for the unimportant. I had just passed 2 beggars sitting on the sidewalk around the corner on 6th Street, one with a hat on the sidewalk asking for spare change. The speaker may have noticed the beggars or may not have, but he needed to look at the beggar man who was offering his passerby a gift. It was, he was offering the opportunity to feel compassion, not by giving him or her money, but the opportunity to recognize the humanity in the beggar man. He or she had been loved by somebody, somebody's child, somebody's lover, somebody's parent, who had been defeated in some way, some when, somehow. They are not broken people, but have taken on the role of a beggar offering a gift, an opportunity to experience compassion for the wounds that we all carry, and to have compassion for our own humanity. Let's not pretend we wish it were not so, but we all need compassion for the wounds that we carry. For to be human is to have been hurt some way, some when, somehow. The beggar needs to be thanked for taking on this difficult role in this lifetime, thereby giving us the opportunity to learn compassion for ourselves. And after all, that's a bargain because it's only $1.
Wow. That's very good.
Thank you. It's one of my favorites.
I've always liked that poem, Neill.
Thank you. I can see him there, and I can see that person with the disdain, the difference in the humanity. It's really...
This is actually how it happened. This is exactly on 6th Street and one of the other streets in downtown New West, right beside the Tim Hortons.
Wow.
Well, thank you, all of you, for coming in today and for sharing your many thoughts, many questions. Maggie, for giving us that rich information.
Yes, thank you so much, Maggie. That was really good.
Thank you for having me. It's been delightful listening to all of you and being involved. And just one thing to reiterate, the tax clinic at 411 at 333 Terminal Avenue starts March 1st and runs from 10 to 2, Monday through Friday, until the end of April, April 29th being the last day. Very good idea to make an appointment if you can first up. That helps, especially if you have questions.
Yes, because they have served as many as 2,000 people. There'll probably be more now. So would you say that number again? People can begin calling now to make an appointment.
Yes, the phone number is 604-684-8171.
Hey, and anybody who wants to can wish me happy birthday because I'm 81 years old on Tuesday.
Happy birthday to you.
Happy
birthday to you.
Happy birthday to dear Neill. Happy birthday to you. And many more.
And many more. I like the many more part.
Oh, that's great. That's what happens. Sometimes Joel is on, and we've had Jane, and when they have people, techie people who are able to have everybody record and then it all blends together. But this is without any technology, our heartfelt song.
Wonderful.
Thank you all.
Take good care.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Okay, thanks everybody. Bye-bye now.